Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Victoria from AWSinsider.net and I am so thrilled to welcome you to today's webcast titled The New Era of Observability, Why Logs Are the Key to Success, sponsored by Sumo Logic. Just a few housekeeping details before we start today. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please make sure to type those into the Q&A box and we'll get them answered for you towards the end of our webcast today. Additionally, we do have some resources provided by our sponsor over on the right-hand side of your console, so take a moment to click on those and check those out. And last thing, we are recording this entire webcast, so please make sure you keep an eye out for a link in your email to rewatch the presentation or to share it with a colleague. This will come within the next few days. Now, to start us off today, I am so thrilled to welcome our experts and our speakers. We have Girish Chanklani, the Principal Technologist at AWS, and we also have Bill Peterson, who's the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Sumo Logic. So we're in for a really great event today, and with that, I will pass the time over to our experts to get us started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Bill Peterson, Senior Director of Product Marketing with Sumo Logic. I'm here with Girish Chanklani, Principal Technologist at AWS. And we're going to talk to you today for a little bit about the new era of observability, why logs are a key to the success of this new era of observability, and why Sumo and AWS are working together to lead this new era. Girish, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Bill. Thanks for inviting me to this webinar.
Of course. So, Girish, I thought what I would do is kind of pontificate for a minute if I could, and then you can come back and tell me everywhere I was wrong. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
So, new era of observability. So, observability, I'll say 1.0 for giggles, was really just about reporting, was collecting metrics, logs, traces, and reporting on them or collecting on them. Somebody, generally a human, had to look at them and figure out what happened. Way oversimplified description of it, I realize, but that was kind of the gist of it. And what we're looking at now as we move forward and logs and observability become more important, especially in incident response, in troubleshooting, in automation and playbook creation. We're hearing a lot in the market about what I'm calling dynamic observability. Others have called it observability 2.0. I'm not going to get really hung up on the label eventually, like all of these exercises where we're trying to name something. The market will come together and decide what the name is, and we'll go from there. It's more important about what are the pieces of dynamic observability. So, Girish, I'm going to give you my thoughts, and then I'd love to get yours. So, I think dynamic observability is the evolution from basic telemetry, so basic capturing of events, to proactive insights. And what do I mean by proactive insights? I mean being able to learn from the logs in this instance and troubleshoot automatically, create playbooks, and repair automatically over time. I realize this is a bit looking in the future. But I think what we're really getting to is a comprehensive view of all of your applications and dependencies in one place. So think a service mapping. And I think the important part here is it's a service mapping where you have all the data. And what do I mean by that? I mean both structured and unstructured data. So the initial observability 1.0, if you would, was just about structured data or instrumented data or telemetry data. Here, we're adding in unstructured data as well. So what's the difference? And I'll do a way oversimplified kind of explanation. I look at structured data as anything that'll fit neatly into a row or a column in a spreadsheet. Way oversimplified, I realize, but that's kind of how my brain captures it. And then unstructured data is that data which wouldn't fit neatly into a row or a column. So, we've all seen these error messages that is, bill.peterson@sumologic.com, and then error 404, 62173, and it goes on forever and ever and ever, and nobody looks at it. You just X out of it as soon as you can. That's kind of what I'm talking about. So it's the capturing of all that data and being able to proactively investigate that data, find source problems, source codes, do service mapping of that data and the dependencies, and then be able to do proactive insights against that data to keep systems up and running. That's where I think we're going with this. So, Girish, I talked a lot there. I'd love to kind of hear what your thoughts on that are.
No, I mean, totally aligned with your thoughts there, Bill. As applications get more complex, right? I mean, you could have, there are so many moving parts to an application. Application could be using, databases to store some data, right? Using storage to store some information over there. Could be using networking components, right? To interact with various other components and things like that over there, right? And then applications could, either be running in the cloud, or you may have, an on-premise component of your application. So, for example, if you're looking at applications that monitor IoT devices running in the cloud, I mean, IoT devices could be anywhere, right? So you are gathering data from those IoT devices. So you have some small component running there, feeding data into your application. So, I mean, basically, as applications get more complicated, there is a lot more, logging data, tracing data being generated. And customers need an application that can look at all of that data, intelligently figure out what is important, right, in that huge mammoth amount of data, and then bubble up all those key points back to an end user. So, I mean, totally aligned there on your view of observability 2.0, or as you call it, dynamic observability, and that's what customers need.
Great. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on the cloud native aspect, right? Because that's, we did the whole digital transformation kind of effort, and everybody moved to some kind of cloud native point of view. And Sumo's cloud native from day one, so it's very near and dear to our hearts. The other thing you pointed out a couple of things there that I guess I put into the kind of pain point bucket or buckets, if you will. And you mentioned fragmented data management. It really is fragmented. By the way, as are the tools in a lot of cases to support providing the benefits or the impact of dynamic observability. So what are some of the other things that fall into those buckets of pain points I think about? I agree with you on data management. I think because there's so many tools, it's hard to troubleshoot sometimes, right? It becomes kind of a hot potato thing, like who owns it and in what tool. I think there's some siloed telemetry data still across teams. So is this DevOps? Is it infrastructure? Is it application? Is it security team? Do they share? And we all know the security team doesn't talk to anybody else. No offense, security folks, I'm kidding. Alert fatigue. I often have this vision in my head of developers kind of sitting there looking at something that came in as an alert and thinking, how long can I avoid that before somebody else takes care of it, right? Because they don't want to do it. And then the other one is kind of who owns on call. There's kind of that part of it as well, because sometimes, depending on the size of the org and budget and time and availability, there is a dedicated on-call team, but very often it's not. It's spread across everybody. So then you run into not only who's going to do it and when and who owns it, but how do you pay for those per user, per seat kind of licenses if everybody's on call all the time? And I think from a pain point perspective, all of that over time ends up to a higher friction user experience that's negative for the end user, because the app, let's be honest, what we're all thinking about at the end of the day is the app up and working for the end user. So interested in your thoughts on some of the pain points that surround that, which, that are driving the need for new solutions in this market.
Yeah, so totally agree there, right, with all the points that you made. One interesting aspect that you spoke about is, every application throwing some sort of an alert, right? Mm. And then figuring out which are high priority alerts, which are, really high priority alerts, and which are not, which can be, looked at later, right? So that is definitely causing, alert fatigue. You have so many applications. I mean, just look at your regular laptop, right? You have so many applications running on it. If every application starts throwing out, multiple alerts, it becomes very difficult, right, for a person to use it. So I would say that the trend that at least, what we are seeing there is a platform that can look at all this data and intelligently figure out what is important and what needs to be bubbled up and what is not important, right? And this is where we are seeing generative AI is turning out to be a very powerful technology that a lot of our partners, including Sumo, are using to bring that information out to their end customers.
Got it. Yeah. No, and I think that's a perfect segue to kind of this, one of the other parts of this conversation we want to have, which is about natural language processing and generative AI. But I think before we get to that, can you maybe talk for a couple of minutes for our attendees on why AWS and why AWS Bedrock, I guess in particular, for not only Sumo, because Sumo does run on top of AWS, but also for things like our copilot that we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. Maybe set the stage for everybody here on why we are here at this point running on AWS.
Yeah, that's a great question there. So, I mean, if you see in the last 2 years or so, right, we can probably call it the age of Gen AI, right, which is a very powerful technology that almost mimics the human brain, right, where, I mean, to put it in simplistic terms, if you give it a large data set, it can process it intelligently and harness insights into your data, right? Or it can even build new content for you because, it's mimicking the human brain. And we do offer a number of services in this area, including Amazon Bedrock, which provides access to foundational models such as Anthropic's Claude 3.x. We have our own models as well, such as Amazon Titan and others, right? So the use case there is, for customers to, use Bedrock via a single API, and then through that you can choose the model that fits best for your use case. Another service that Amazon provides is Amazon Q, which is, and I mean, there are two flavors of Amazon Q. One is Q for business and Q for developers. But the Q for business is the one which is focused. I mean, it provides an intelligent chatbot that, given a set of data, gives you a conversational natural language interface to it. And it uses, generative AI on the back, and it can give you answers, right? So you don't have to, customers do not have to worry about the complexity that is going on behind the scenes. We handle all of that complexity for our end customers. Now, one of the common use cases right here with the Gen AI technologies that we are seeing is the creation of chatbots, right? And this is essentially, the use cases to simplify the interface for a product. So for one example of this is, instead of me, I mean, if I start learning a new, let's say I want to use a new product, a new application, I have to first, in the traditional way, you have to go, read the manual, you have to figure out where the buttons are, how do I go about using it, things like that, right? So with Gen AI, what we are seeing is, all of that is being replaced by a very easy to use chatbot right? That provides a natural language interface, query interface to it. So all you do is, for example, let's say if you're using a backup product, instead of you going to learn and going through the manuals and learning how to create backup policies, what needs to be protected, things like that, you just go and say, okay, create a backup policy for me that can protect my VMware infrastructure, and set the retention to whatever 30, 90 days, and that's about it, right? And behind the scenes, the product will go and create it for you. So it's making interactive software, right, a lot simpler.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, it's one of the reasons that we chose AWS and Bedrock as kind of our foundational model to build off of a lot of the parts that you just talked about. So I want to just chat briefly about our copilot, and which again is running on AWS. So our copilot is called Sumo Logic Mo Copilot. So Mo Copilot for short. And just trying to differentiate ourselves from every other copilot that's out there in the world with the naming. And it is a natural language processing engine, an assistant, or to your point, Garesh, a chatbot at some level, that helps folks find insights and resolve incidents faster with natural language processing. So Sumo is all about queries, right? You can query anything within Sumo Logic. And that's great, but you kind of need to know the syntax, and it does follow SQL kind of language querying. And Garesh is nodding because he's been a hands-on user and understands that there's some learning curve there. So what we're doing is we're introducing Sumo Logic Mo Copilot to assist everybody, new users, I'm sure, especially, but even experienced users, on being able to do plain English queries, but also with contextual suggestions. So we're going to provide the ability to type in the query, and as you're typing, or as you do a single query, we're going to contextualize and make some suggestions in a box on the right-hand side, and you'll see this in a couple of minutes, that is trying to predict what you're doing or predict the process and to help you along, so you can either select one of those queries or select it and slightly modify it and use it to move on. So I guess, Girish, you know about Copilot. We announced Copilot actually in May 2024 in Tech Preview, and we will be GAing at the upcoming AWS reInvent in December show. But I'm curious from your kind of use of the product, your time as a hands-on keyboard person and as a technologist, what do you think about Sumo's Copilot, and again, maybe just kind of clamp it all together on how Copilot works and how it works with AWS.
Yeah, so in terms of, looking at the benefits there, right, for end customers, going back to the point that I previously made, makes and you are also talking about that, right, makes interaction with software very, very easy. Right, so you don't have to learn SQL syntaxes and things like that, right? You can just type your query in natural language. Sumo will, a lot of times will automatically complete that query for you. And that's about it for an end user. Now, behind the scenes, the way it works is, so Sumo is a platform, right, which is built. It's a SaaS service built completely on AWS. And so all of your logs that are coming in from applications are ingested into Sumo's product. So this data is then fed into Amazon Bedrock, and then where it is analyzed, right? And this makes querying much more easier, right? Because it's gone through this generative AI interface there, done the analysis, and using the results of those analysis, right? I mean, just to give you a easier example, a simpler example here. Uh, let's say I'm ingesting, a lot of logs coming in from my VMs, right? All that data is fed into Bedrock. The log files are fed into Bedrock, and out emerges a pattern, right? Where I can do queries like, what are the most common alerts that are alerts that you see in these VMs, right? And then intelligently, you get these results back saying that, okay, these are the most common errors that we have seen. These are the error codes, right? Built to your point, you are talking about those, 400 error codes, things like that over there. So, and then Sumo takes that, gets information from, what exactly, I mean, uses a number of third-party sources and figures out what exactly does that error mean. And then going from there, how do you go about, this is just information, right? So this is the error. What is the next step to that? So, from those errors, figuring out how do you go about resolving that, and then feeding that information, giving that information to you in that easy interface, right? So, for an end customer, the interface looks very, very simple and easy to use, which is the intention. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of complexity, but it's all handled seamlessly for you by Sumo, which is built on AWS, right, using our services.
Perfect. Garesh, again, perfect setup for me. Thank you. It's like we practiced this. So, folks, we're going to show you about a 5-6 minute demo here that's going to focus on showing you our observability application, our alert function, the AWS CloudTrail dashboard within Sumo Logic, and finally a little preview of Copilot that we've been discussing here. So we'll go ahead and play this video for you, video demo, and then we'll come back and have some Q&A.
Hi, everyone. I just want to do a real quick high-level run-through of some of the stuff you guys have been talking about. So we're just starting here in our AWS Observability app. This is out of the box. One of the wonderful things about Sumo is some of its organizational skills. So as you see here on the right, these are all dashboards that are just out of the box. And they're a mix of actual logs and metrics along the way, but it's one unified view. On the left here, you see the different apps, but as you click into any of these, it actually starts to organize your Amazon, and it'll show you them from a high level if you want to look at everything. But let's say you're just trying to problem solve something in US East 1. All we'd have to do is go over here, click down on US East 1, and now we have our API gateways, load balancers, EC2s, Lambda calls, all those kind of things are organized for us. We just have a nicer way to dig into our information. It's visual, it's going to show outliers, it's going to give you alerts that are set. And as we click through, say, into our load balancers, we can break those down individually, or we can look at an overhead view of all of them. And then every single one of these is going to be interactive. If there's entities involved, you can click on entities. If not, there's dashboards connected as well as log searches predisposed for you. You also see they're all connected since we're log-based and we start from logs. We know when things come in and when things are happening, and it's a nice view to be able to cross your entire environment that way. As we get running, though, I said this is one of our apps. We have hundreds of apps out of the box. Here, I just typed in AWS. Everything from AI, like Bedrock, to cloud infrastructure security. You can click on that. Any of these that you click on, it'll show you all the dashboards that are going to come through there with those kind of apps. Drop back one. You keep dropping down. As you can see, it's an extensive catalog. But out of the box, you're going to get the searches, the apps, the alerts, all that kind of stuff. Global intelligence is actually really interesting as well. These are baselined against what is best practices to help you look at your environment and see if you're up to date with those kind of things. So All that's well said and done. Nice thing about Sumo is since it's at the log level, we have security, we have observability, and we have it where it meets, if you're on the AppSec team or DevSecOps or anything like that. Next, let's jump over to an alert. So this is one of the alerts that we set. I just grabbed this one out of a Slack channel. You can have it come in wherever you'd like, whatever's going to be the most useful for you. But as we can look down from top down, we have a nice visual. You can jump directly into the log search if you'd like, but we bring most things in here, so you don't have to. You're gonna have your log messages, your alert context, dimensional explanations, your standouts, that kind of stuff, and then log fluctuations, which is one of my favorite things because you've seen something new or pushed, you know how it is. It's usually at least a good place to start. Also interesting over here is we'll have playbooks. So anytime you want to see the playbooks, you just click on the playbook button and you can have your normal manual just step through, but also Sumo Logic is a full SOAR platform. So we call it automations. You can run automated playbooks just like you would for your security team, but for observability. Do you need to restart a node? Do you need to open a Slack channel or open a ServiceNow ticket? There's hundreds of out-of-the-box playbooks for you. If we do jump into the log search, you can look at those logs for that time period. As you can see here, this is obviously very easy to work through. You can change time, you can change place, all that good stuff. It's going to bring up all of your logs. You're going to have hidden fields over here that you can automatically iterate on, any of those kind of things that you need to look at. You can just jump right into. It's very easy to use and intuitive. It's going to do most of the work for you. But what if you don't know how to write SQL, or you're new and you don't usually work in this, but you're trying to help with an incident? That's where our copilot comes in. And this is a generative AI tool that we built. It's a natural language, so you don't have to write SQL. You could actually just write, look for this. I want to see this. But also, we can take it a step further. We just picked AWS CloudTrail. I guess it's probably a security incident or something. We go over here, and these are the suggestions from the data that it'll actually give to us. So logs correlated with intelligence based on source IP, count logs by AWS region and status, DB subnets, geographical coordinates based on IP. So let's just try one of these. And Sumo actually automated the dashboard for us, which is great. Copilot knows what kind of queries are going to pull up dashboards and those kind of things like that. It just does the work for you, right? So you see, here's the natural language, count logs by geographical coordinates based on source IP. Here's that query. Luckily, you didn't have to write that. Copilot did it for you. So I said it's just a real quick sneak peek, a high-level overview. We can dig in deeper some other time. All right, have a great day, guys. Thanks.
Excellent. So I think what we'll do now is jump in and look at any questions that have come in. I see a couple here. Let's see. The first one is, can Sumo Logic effectively handle the scale and volume of data we need to ingest and analyze? Yes. Next question. No, I'm kidding. So we ingest and analyze about, on average, 3.5 exabytes of data a day from over 2,200-ish customers. So yeah, I feel pretty confident we can handle. There was no detail there, so if you're still on and want to ask some more detail, there are specifics, glad to address. But running on AWS, handling 3.5 exabytes a day for thousands of customers, I feel pretty confident we can handle whoever that was with the question. By the way, somebody in a recent call said to me, Bill, do you have any idea how much data 3.5 exabytes is? And of course I said, a lot. And they said, no, I kind of did the math and I want to put it in context. It is the equivalent of all of the data on 9 million cell phones. Random, but I kind of like that. reference. I see Garish nodding his head. All right, next question. What are the security and compliance certifications that Sumo Logic holds? Oh boy. All right, my test here. FedRAMP Moderate, HIPAA, SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001, and PCI DSS 3.2, one of the service provider levels. It's on our website, but we have a whole bunch. So your data is safe. It's on AWS, which also has their own whole level of security and compliance. So I'm seeing a theme here. Scale, yep. Security, compliance, yes. Together we do all of that. Next question. Can Sumo Logic integrate with our existing monitoring and incident management tools? Great question. We've been talking about incident management or incident response here, I guess, quite a bit. As of today, 450 plus applications, as David pointed out in the demo, and integration partners and integrations. So chances are for the monitoring and incident management space, we probably already integrated with whatever partner or vendor you're considering, but check on the website or come talk to us and we can discuss with you. But having 450 plus, I'm pretty sure we have all the major ones covered. That seems to be all of the questions we have at this time. What I wanted to do here, last slide, to just show you some of the resources and next steps. So the blog that's mentioned here is the blog that Garish and I were kind of talking about on how we differentiate Sumo Logic Mo Copilot using Amazon Bedrock, and a lot more detail in the blog. You can go read that. If you want to even go the next step deeper with much more data, there's a white paper that you can go take a look at. You can always book a demo with us and speak to a specialist. That's always available to you. And then finally, we have a 30-day free trial. You can try before you buy and come on and check out Sumo Logic and see the experience and the UI and try it out for yourself. Garish, I want to thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you again.
Same here, Bill. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Of course, of course. And then let me take one more look. Yep, that does it for Q&A. So that'll wrap us up. Thank you all and have a lovely day.
Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful. Yes, it does look like that is all the time we have for today. Thank you again so much, Garish and Bill, for being on with us today. We really appreciate your time. And of course, a special thank you to our attendees for attending today's event. And a big thank you to Sumo Logic, of course, for sponsoring today's webcast presented by AWSinsider.net. We could not have done it without you. We hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.